All right, guys, it's story time. So today I hit chest and back. Basically, on my program, I have a chest and back day, and that was what I focused on. So the way my workout works is my second movement is some kind of unilateral row, either with a cable or a machine, where basically I get a full contraction like at the top, and then I control the eccentric for 3 seconds, pause at the bottom, get a full stretch, and then back, really just meant to really focus on one side of the back at the time and just really hit it hard, getting a perfect mind muscle connection. Then I do the other side. So that's what basically my program called for. So what I really like to do in my gym, usually I've been focused on recently, is this one hammer strength machine. It's a low row basically. It's you can't really see, but it's kind of down at the bottom, you would land like this, and you kind of pull it up to here. Again, awesome contraction. It's my favorite one by far. So I want to do that today, but I got there and there's some dude, I don't think he fully spoke English, to be honest. He's like, oh, I just started. And I'm like, oh, damn it. So I need to find another machine. I need to wait for this guy. And I've been dealing with some bull crap lately, but so I've been taking training super seriously, and I'm thinking I don't want to stop and just wait for this dude. I want to roll right now. I want to get this pump going. The other machine I was using a few weeks ago is this one that's totally different. It's not a hammer strength one. You're basically sitting back more, and you use these plate loaded handles, and you kind of reach out more. It's basically a row, but it's different. You hit your traps more rather than the lower part of your lat. You get a different kind of contraction, and it just simply isn't the same, even if it was working the same exact contraction, to be honest. And in this scenario, I was wondering, well, should I just wait for this dude with the hammer strength machine, or should I do the other row? And today I chose to just move on to my workout and do the other row machine. I'm gonna tell you why in this video, why I chose to do that and what ultimately influenced my decision. So there's many reasons why you might want to switch up exercises. The first reason is because you might be traveling, you might be going to a different gym, or you might just be in a scenario where the machines are different at a different gym, or whatever it may be, or your gym just might be too crowded like mine is. There's so many people at that gym, and especially because I'll go after work, I'm done training my clients sometimes, at 5 or 6, 7, it's so damn crowded. So I'm thinking well, I gotta work around this. So that really can influence the decision as well. But the other thing, another factor too, is some people just switching up. They want to shock their muscles, as Arnold would say. They want to accomplish muscle confusion, which there's a whole different thing I could talk about on that, whole different rabbit hole. But and really the answer on if you should switch up movements honestly depends on a variety of factors. The first factor really depends on is what your goal is. So again, my channel, my expertise applies more for strength and muscle building. So I'm gonna kind of talk about in this context rather than cardio or whatever. But if your goals are more powerlifting focused, you're trying to improve your squat, bench, and deadlift, those are the main goals of powerlifters, then you honestly can't get away from performing those 3 movements. Those are literally your main goal. You're trying to get those 3 lifts up. So you honestly need to practice them and make sure you're getting those repetitions in there, and you're focusing on improving and tracking progress with those movements. I guess the only exception may be if you're at a certain point in your program where you're doing something that kind of feeds into the squat deadlift, your main pressing movement is a dumbbell bench press or a safety bar squat. That's your main movement. But in that situation, it'd be the same exact answer. That's your main movement you're trying to focus on, so you want to be performing that movement every week, Now you might be wondering, if you're in a situation where you can't perform that movement, you're on vacation, then honestly you should go do whatever you can, mimic that as much as possible, but get a workout, and that way you are training the muscle. It's better than nothing. Again, you will likely retain or make progress depending on how long your break is from that type of training. Now, for bodybuilding or general strength training, there is much more flexibility with this in general overall. With bodybuilding, basically the goals of bodybuilding and powerlifting are different. For powerlifting, you're trying to just get as strong as you can on the bench, squat, and deadlift by any means possible that is legal in a powerlifting context as far as meet rules go. Whereas with bodybuilding, you're trying to grow your muscles by breaking them out as much as possible and help and gain them to recover as much as possible so they grow as much as possible. Now, there's different schools on thoughts on the best way to accomplish this, but with bodybuilding, you can basically break down a muscle in many different ways with different exercises. So there's many different ways to do things, right? So there is more flexibility allowed with bodybuilding, definitely for sure. But in terms of making optimal progress, in my opinion, and you know, there's different bodybuilders that do different things. Like Hunter Labrada, he's very, very like meticulous with the training. He uses a logbook for tracking his training. And some other pros will just like wing it or switch it up a lot, you know. Honestly, when you have that level of genetics and you're like on that many drugs, you can do many things different. Honestly, to be completely honest, guys. But in my opinion, if you want to optimize your progress for bodybuilding or really improve your general strength, like specific strength goals you may have on certain lifts, or just be stronger overall, I recommend you keep at least one main movement per muscle group that you focus on progressing week by week, or possibly having like 2 or 3 that you rotate on a weekly basis, like a bi-weekly basis. So let's say 1 week you do squat, the next one you do your hack squats, then you like rotate them. The week after squat, hack squat, and then just, it's a pattern, you know. But you really focus on progressing at least 1 or 2 bi-weekly movements, and really focus on progressing on those over time for a specific amount of time, or until you reach a plateau. And that's what I recommend for making optimal progress. A few reasons why. First reason is because basically it's simply because it's easier to track your progress. You know you're getting more muscle breakdown. Again, this is assuming you're keeping your form and your time under tension consistent, but you know like you're overloading that muscle over time. And physique changes happen much slower. Like, you know, you don't really like just see like it like get bigger every day. You kind of like notice it at random different times, and you notice it over time longer. Versus like you can actually see your progress, but really like your gym performance is indicative that your muscle is slowly getting bigger and stronger over time. So it makes it easier to track your progress. On top of that, practice just simply makes perfect. By practicing a movement more often, you're becoming more proficient in it and learning how to get a better mind-muscle connection and overall progress on that movement and get more hypertrophy from that movement. So that's what I recommend. Now for secondary movements or accessory movements, which is what they would call them in powerlifting, again, it really depends for powerlifting. If you're really trying to focus on one part of your lift, or like one specific muscle group, then it's probably best to keep doing the same movement. But for like other accessories that are just more generally hypertrophy focused, you can honestly do more of whatever you want, just to get a pump or really get hypertrophy. But again, I kind of honestly recommend you just like stay somewhat consistent, which is the same thing for bodybuilding too. When it comes to accessory movements, like, you know, if you're just like doing like switching up the machine you use, or like you're doing a warm-up movement, which is what I call. The way I start most of my bodybuilding workouts, I do a machine, or like I do some kind of isolation exercise to get more blood flow in the muscle before I really hit it hard with a compound movement, just like prevent injury. But for that, there is more flexibility because you're really just trying to accomplish like more muscle breakdown, hypertrophy, rather than like seeing like more progress on a specific movement like that, or like, getting a better mind muscle connection rather than just seeing like more specific progress on that movement. Same, I guess, thing goes for like these kind of movements in powerlifting as well. But for these, you can switch this up more often. I don't recommend you just switch it up randomly all the time, though, to be honest. Again, me, myself, I just like seeing progress just how I am, so I keep it the same usually. Or what I'll do is I'll keep track of like what gym I went to and what machine I use. So let's say, so I'm going to use that same exact row example I did. So I did that so that hammer strength machine row, I've been doing that the last few weeks. Before that, I was doing the row machine I used today. So today, when I wanted to use the row machine I used a few weeks ago, I was able to look back at my train log and see what I did there, and I was able to increase the weights. I still made progress. I recommend whatever you're doing, you honestly keep a log of just what you're doing on specific movements. That way you are progressing. But again, I recommend for optimal progress, you do keep things the same mostly. But if you want to rotate some accessory stuff out, you can. Honestly, it's totally fine. Now, for the overall question, should you rotate movements or just do the same things forever? The thing is, you're not going to be able to do the same program forever and ever and make constant progress. It's either going to slow down or you're going to hit a plateau completely. So one way to combat this is to switch your movements out or switch up exercise order. So what I recommend you do is you stick to the same movements for a while until you either like plateau in them or you like start having issues with them, and then you rotate the order of them. And really, it might just be to make more progress because you are plateauing, or it could be because you're having like a joint overuse issue, which can happen with some movements if you just do it for too long. Switching and rotating this out may help with that. On top of that, I'm gonna do an analogy which I'm honestly probably gonna butcher. It's my coach's analogy. He doesn't much. He'll probably do a much better job. But if you think about if you're a bodybuilder, let's say you're trying to go to your quads, right? So you have your hack squat and you have your barbell squat, your high bar squat. So you're trying to choose between the two. Well, let's say you just decide to do high bar squats. So you're trying to grow your quads. You're progressing over with this column, like just this array, just one narrow array. Versus, let's say you do barbell squats and then you also do your hack squats, like you do your hack squats after. You're progressing on this over time. You get more stimulus in different ways for your quads, progressing on a wider array, and also building a better toolkit to like find exercises that work better for you and just learning what works best for you to focus primarily on. I honestly might butcher that. I hope I didn't, but it makes sense to me at least. But it gives you a better variety of movements that really focus on training your muscles and overall make more progress. And I guess the other thing too, finally, the other reason why I recommend is just to make training fun. Again, you want to be consistent. If training's more enjoyable, you're much likely to stay consistent with it and overall love the process. And you know, like when I was on my prep, like I started getting kind of bored with training around like 5 months, around 5 months into it, because I just started like, I was doing the same thing over and over again. The reason why I did that was because I wanted to make sure I was making progress, but I realized, you know, I could switch up what gym I was going to, or I could like switch up some of the movements that weren't quite as important, you know, and that was what I did. And then after my prep ended, I kind of switched up my workouts a bit. Honestly, I'm on the same program still, but I did like switch up some of the movements slightly, and I also like switch up the order quite a bit and rep ranges too. But really, to sum things out, if your goals are powerlifting, you can't really get too far away from, you can't like get away with not doing squat, bench, and deadlift. That's literally the point of powerlifting. That's the goal. If your goals are more general strength or bodybuilding, I recommend, again, you focus on having 1 or 2 biweekly movements that you alternate in order to like make sure you're making progress on these. And as far as accessory work goes, both for powerlifting and bodybuilding, you can be more flexible, but I recommend you keep track of what you're doing so you are making progress overall. And in the grand scheme of things, you should be switching out movements for a variety of reasons. But that's really it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I taught you guys something and applies the information yourself or sent it to someone. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.